What's up, you guys? Welcome back to the channel. In today's episode, we're going to be installing my brand new 4-gear dog box from G-Force Transmission. So here it is, brand new G-Force GSR 4-gear dog box, custom gear ratios: 2.48 first gear, 1.68 second gear, 1.31 third gear, and then the fourth gear is always 1:1. These are pretty standard gear ratio for a drift car. However, the main difference with this transmission and my old T101A is that it is top shift transmission, which means the linkage is right here, and then the forks for the gears are right here, instead of where my old transmission was side to side, and it took a lot more space on the side for the linkages. So this is the bell housing I'm going to be running for now. This is a stock automatic bell housing of a 2JZ. It has a conversion adapter plate that bolts on straight to the dog box. This is what I use on my T101 transmission. So purely out of curiosity, because I have racing scales and a measuring device here, we're gonna weigh the GSR transmission, and we just so happen to have a spare R154 transmission just sitting here. We're gonna compare the weights together and see if there's major weight differences between the G-Force GSR transmission and a stock R154 transmission. And of course I have a bell housing and adapter plate too, so I'm going to include that in the GSR transmission just to kind of get the overall weight of the transmission and compare it. Alright, so here's the two transmission in comparison. You got your GSR with an automatic bell housing and an adapter plate to meet it all together, and then you got the OEM R154 transmission with a manual bell housing. We're going to start with the R154. Let's see the weight of it. We're going to put it on the scale. And the result is 112 pounds for the OEM 5-speed R154 transmission. And now the GSR transmission. Dwayne over here says it's heavier. And the results are, looking at him,
8 pounds.
104. Interesting. So 8-pound difference. When it comes to the racing world, anything lighter is better, so I take that as a win-win situation. Alright, you guys, day 2 over here at the shop. The other day we test fitted the clutch onto the engine. Then we tried installing transmission, but there's a lot of areas right now that still need to be modified because it is a whole new transmission. This transmission is a lot taller than my old one, which means we'll have to cut out the entire upper section of the tranny tunnel to make it fit. But we did manage to put it on just to get an idea where we're gonna have to start cutting. This way we don't cut too much of the car out. Obviously we don't want to do that because that's gonna end up being way more work to close it all up. Alright, so the dashboard out and the seats out. Now I have room to start thinking about how I'm gonna cut this tranny tunnel. Now the complicated part about this is this tranny tunnel has already been previously modified. Since I was running a G-Force T101, which was a side shift, I had to cut out the whole side of my tranny tunnel previously and make an opening for the side linkage shifter setup on here. Now, however, the shifter is going to be right in the center like factory cars, and looking from underneath, it actually would have fell right in the original location of a 240 shifter, which is pretty cool. But because the transmission is really tall on the top, I do have to cut the center section out because once you raise the transmission, it's going to hit the tunnel. So I might as well cut it out a lot wider to where I can box this tranny tunnel up after we cut it out to make it easy and accessible to remove the transmission in and out of the car, and hopefully make the overall experience easier if the tranny was to ever have to come out for service or maybe clutch replacement or whatever. Alright, so I've pretty much cut out as much of the tunnel as I'm going to cut out, and we are kind of ready to start designing sheet metal to go around this entire cutout. I went as far as I could into the firewall to gain access to the bell housing bolts. Those are some of the bolts that I was never able to access underneath the vehicle. I would literally have to tilt the engine over as much as I possibly could, which would mean I'd have to disconnect the intercooler pipes and a couple other things that were holding the engine from tilting back. So now, once I design the cover to go over the tunnel, I'll be able to unbolt the cover and be able to access the bolts. Alright you guys, so I've actually been at it for a couple days off camera, just part-time, doing some stuff here and there. I managed to shape together a tunnel cover for the car. I did a little cutouts here, as you can see, for the shifter and the handbrake. Then I managed to weld in this reinforcement bracket. It kind of ties both sides of the training tunnel together, and then it's going to tie the handbrake reinforcement bar into it as well. The reinforcement, or the handbrake bracket, is actually right here. I've already drilled holes for the handbrake, put bolts through it, welded some nuts on the other side so they never come off. And basically what that is going to do is we're going to have the handbrake right here, close to the shifter, closer to the steering wheel this time than before, and we'll be able to tie everything together. So here's a raw look of how everything's looking. I got the handbrake bracket welded in. I am gonna do a couple more reinforcement plates, however, because it is kind of still bending from the pressure. Definitely don't want that longevity of the handbrake. It will eventually crack these welds, so a couple more brackets will definitely help out the situation. Then I'll do some sheet metal and cover up this section here. I'm not too worried about this section here because we're gonna have a shifter boot that's gonna sit over that entire hole, and I'll just put rivet inserts in on the side, and this will bolt right up. Alright you guys, it has been a couple days of me working off camera. I did finish the transmission. It took me way longer than it should, to be honest. I've been coming to the shop only every other weekend, 4 to 5 hours at a time. Every time I come here, I have to kind of figure out where I stopped, and it just takes time. So transmission like that, with all the modification you have to do to the tunnel, probably would take you anywhere from, I want to say, 10 to 15 hours total. It did take me much longer. Once again, I wasn't in a rush to do it. And we are done. Let me show you guys the way it looks. Last video clip you guys saw, I did bend up that cover. I have now painted it white, try to match it as close to the white as I could to the color of the interior. Got it all bolted down. I did shave the dashboard to meet the new transmission tunnel layout. I put the cover on for the shifter. The handbrake's all in place. Everything's back together. Engine is now sitting properly where it should in its original location. It has literally been like 8 months since I've last driven this car. 6 months since I put it on the lift to do this swap, but everything's all nice and done. The handbrake's all on its final location. Got a nice cutout here in case it bounces back. And there's room for more adjustment if I choose to go a little bit more forward with it. But the location's great. Shifter's right in the middle since it is a top mount shift transmission. Let's fire this thing up.
Hey. Manjis, bro, let's go.
All right, you guys, the car feels amazing. Transmission feels phenomenal, just as expected. Special shout out to Joe from G-Force Transmission for helping me out through the process of getting this transmission together, figuring out the clutch setup, and just through the whole step and the procedures of putting it in the car. That's gonna wrap it up for this one, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you have any questions, please hit me up on social media. Links down below. Other than that, I'll see you guys at the track. Peace.